Hi.
Hi.
So what's today?
Today is March 9th. I had to think about that.
Yeah.
2014.
Okay. And so where are you going right now after this?
Church.
Of course you are. And is there anything else you'd like to say about what you're doing today? Do you have a list?
Yes, I do have a list. Among other items, we're entertaining our son for dinner.
Oh, that's right. Okay, cool. Tell me your name
Bruce Asper.
and how old are you?
78.
Okay. And so where were you born?
Butler, Pennsylvania.
And what do you remember about Butler? Anything?
Nothing.
Okay. Because your parents you moved to.
Well, I grew up when we were in Pennsylvania in a little suburb of Beaver Falls called Patterson Heights.
Patterson Heights. Okay. And who lived in your house with you?
Various people at various times, especially during the war, but the ones that lived there most consistently, besides the immediate family, which at that time there were, until Rick was born, there were 4 in the immediate family, were my cousin Corey and his mother, Aunt Peg.
Okay, so Corey, Aunt Peg, and you, your mom, and
My sister, Joan.
Joan. And
Rick was born after, well, at the end of the war, but before he moved to California.
so he was kind of a surprise.
Yes.
How did you feel about that?
Loved having a little brother.
Really?
Yeah.
You changed his diapers?
Yep. Mother
Really?
taught me how to do all that stuff. Clean, feed, everything.
Your mother taught you how to do a lot of things, right? So what are some of the things your mom taught you?
Cooking, how to organize things, although I didn't learn that one very well. And she was a very good money manager. I wish my dad had let her practice that more often.
So, but she also taught you how, this is the main thing that I remember, she taught you how to do something about ironing.
Yeah, she taught me how to iron a shirt and how to do it in a very few minutes.
Is that great? She also taught Denny, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
When Danny lived with us a couple of years when we were in college and high school.
Okay, so who is Denny?
Danny's my best friend and our best man.
And so how did he get in the family?
Through me. He came to dinner and things like that. And because of a set of circumstances, and he wanted to go to the same college we went to together, he ended up being invited to stay at our place.
For how long did he stay?
A couple of years.
A couple of years? That was after high school or before high school?
After.
After high school. So you went, so
His
then,
parents had moved back to L.A.
okay, let's talk about your high school. Well, I don't know. Do you want to talk about anything to do with Patterson Heights? What was the most fun thing that you did?
Neighborhood games with guys. We had a close-knit group of people. It wasn't a very big area, but we had this neat play field like a block away, and there were probably a dozen of us that played football, baseball, all that stuff.
Okay, and it gets really cold there.
Well, it snows in the winter.
Did you have a paper out there?
Yes, I did. When I was 8 or 9, I can't remember which. Just a little local route, probably 50, 60 customers. I loved it on sunny summer days. It was a morning paper route.
How about the winter?
Didn't like it so much in the winter. It was a Pittsburgh Post-Gazette.
Did your dad ever help you?
Yes, he drove me around on really brutal days, and by the way, so did Mother occasionally.
Were they encouraging about your getting a job?
Always. If I could earn money, my dad was always in favor of it. One of the ways he got me to go down to the local golf course and collect balls. And originally I was doing it for his older brother who played there when he came to visit. But then it got to be so lucrative from the point of view of the balls that I started selling them at the pro shop afterwards.
How much?
Dime a ball.
Oh, that was kind of expensive, actually.
In those days, yeah.
Yeah. How much money could you make?
Well, it was all net profit, of course, because they were someone else's balls that they were too lazy to shag with. I mean, I'd wait on the little ponds and everything else for it. Oh, I'd probably made a couple bucks a week on it.
So, all right, so then you moved from Patterson. Were you sad to leave New Jersey? No, I'm sorry, Pennsylvania.
It's okay. The geography was never one of your fortes.
No.
Yeah and no. I was excited about our trip west, but you got to remember when we left Patterson Heights to go west, it was to visit Corey and his new wife, Mary Ann, because he was going to college here in California. And the idea was just going to be a summer trip of some extent, probably 3-4 weeks, I think was the plan. ended up, that was the last time I left Pennsylvania, because we were left here. My folks went back to sell the house, and furniture moved and all that stuff, and because Corey had gotten my dad a few interviews, I guess that was a payback. I never thought about it that way for all the nice things we did. And Dad saw how much better the money was out here and how he could be a principal in elementary school for a lot more than he made being a principal in an average size high school. So we took the job and we came.
Where did he start being a principal?
Pomona, at Lincoln School.
Yeah, and you started at what school?
Well, when we moved, I started the 7th grade in California. And Joan started the 9th. She was 2 years ahead of me.
And what school?
Same. We both in junior high, Fremont.
Yeah, Fremont.
It was the wrong side of town. That junior high on the wrong side of town.
Yeah. So, yeah, but we had a lot of great kids that came from Fremont. All went to the same high school.
Yes, there was only one high school in town at the time, where you and I met, as a matter of fact. That was Pomona High. And
Fremont and Emerson both were the only...
They were the only junior highs, and they fit in. And those were junior highs, because they were 3-year.
Let's talk a little. I'm sorry. Let's talk a little bit about Pomona. Do you know how many people were actually residing in Pomona when we were there?
In the mid-30s, about 35,000.
Really small town. So, and I know that you had a job. I know that you had a job just like every other guy in town had a job doing what?
You know, even buddies of mine whose folks had money, and there were not many, but a few, worked. Interesting enough. I mean, so it was just kind of it was a thing to be done. Well, I continued in the paper route business. My dad made sure that I interviewed for and got a route. I ended up delivering a morning newspaper that's no longer in business, that competed with the Times in those days, and much bigger route. And everybody in our family worked. My mother worked part-time. My dad worked at least, he moonlighted with some job, always doing something. So, and other guys my age and women my age, I think classic jobs for girls was to be a clerk in like a department store like you were, or at a restaurant or something like that, or babysit. And it was very gender biased. The better jobs, pay-wise and every otherwise, went to the boys, I gotta tell you.
I was actually referring to the really obnoxious job of smudging.
Oh, yes.
So, can you tell us just a little bit, because I know the grandchildren will never understand smudging.
Yeah, smudging is difficult to understand, even for some grown-ups who have not been around orange groves. Anyhow, it was a way of controlling the cold temp, especially when what they called the dew point, it was such that it might freeze the oranges, which there were a lot of groves in Pomona at the time. So they burned oil in these smudge pots, and the oil would create a haze over the whole grove, and I might add the whole town, that would keep them warmer. That haze would keep a lot of the moisture, cold air from the oranges, keep them from freezing up. It was brutal work. Classically, you got to work and were called out sometime between midnight and 2 a.m., and you worked all night, filling smudge pots or lighting them or whatever.
So, to filling them, you just put the oil in, and then you lit it, and then you lit them.
You lit it.
Yeah. So how did you look when you came
Only
home?
the grown-ups got the light, by the way.
How long did you sleep on those nights?
Hardly at all, until they called you. You know, so you were, the money was good because people didn't enjoy doing it, obviously. It was a filthy job. If you smudged, you classically had a pair of clothes or set of clothes that you just kept outside in the garage or whatever, because they'd just mess up the whole house. You took them off, and it was hard to get the smudge out of your nose and my eyes and all the smoke and everything. It paid well. It was paid like 3 times minimum wage, which in those days was about $2 an hour.
Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah, no girls did it, right?
No,
And everybody.
not even the wife of the owner of the Grove.
Yeah. Well, she probably didn't want to. So did you? There was always a. Do you remember that everybody had a?
You could tell who had been smudging.
Yeah.
I mean, well, yeah.
Well, not really. Everybody had.
Everybody had nostrils, and you could see on smudge days. You couldn't see those pretty mountains. You could barely see the sky. And it was just can you imagine the congestion and what got inside our lungs and everything?
Yeah, let's not talk about
That's
that.
one of the reasons smudging is, they now do it with wind machines.
Oh, do they? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on. So you went to Pomona High School, and you were. Well, tell me about your time at Pomona High School.
Let me see. I was part of a social group that was very active in things. Few of them were good jocks, not me. A few of them were school leaders in student government. And then my role of fame was, by the time I was a senior, I got to be the yell leader.
So was it okay to be a cheerleader when you were
Yes.
a guy?
Yes, it was okay to be a guy and be a cheerleader. In fact, there were 2 guys and 4 girls that we cheerlead.
Did you trade off being head cheerleader, or were you just head cheerleader?
I was head cheerleader. It was a vote of the other cheerleaders.
Yeah. Did you get mad at the audience when they
Yes, and you reminded me of that.
Sure.
The people either loved me or hated me because I'd bawl them out for not making enough noise, not cheering. Like, we had rallies every week during football and basketball season.
Yeah. Where do we have those rallies?
This beautiful big auditorium that even had a balcony. That's where the sophomores, they call it the shelf, that's where they sat, and then the juniors sat on the wings downstairs, and the seniors got the best seats in the middle. So we classically would have the classes root against each other for noise.
Yeah. Yes, I remember that. So what happened at that high school?
It burned down a couple of years after I graduated. And was it 1 year after you graduated?
Yeah. So, and how did it happen?
Arson was suspected, and I guess later proven by, interestingly enough, the vice principal, who, when they did an investigation of his past, found out that he'd been involved in an arson at another school earlier.
Do you remember his name?
Yes, Churchill.
Churchill. So, okay, so
His first
then,
name was Mr., as far as I know.
what was your grade point at? Yeah, Mr. Churchill. It was shaking usually. So what was, so you decided that you would go on to what school?
I decided that, actually, originally I wanted to go to an Ivy League school, and I was really accepted at Columbia. But I didn't go there. My dad finally let me know that there was no money in the coffers for me to go to any school like that. In fact, pretty much told me that I should expect to pay my own way through college.
Okay.
Even though he was very supportive of me going.
What was your grade point average in high school, do you remember?
About 3.5, 3.6.
Okay. All right, so.
But I did take college prep classes all the way through. They didn't call them honors in those days. You were just in, they had, I think, a letter after the class.
Was it just advanced, maybe?
Yeah, paid for advance.
Okay, so where did you go then after you graduated from high
Junior
school?
college,
Which one?
Mount Sac, which was a great school and a great experience.
Okay, what was its real name?
Mount San Antonio College.
Okay, and from there, and you had fun.
Oh, I had fun. I had great fun at Mount Sac.
Were you a cheerleader there?
Yes, I was. And how much fun that was, because we'd travel much further and away games were so much fun.
Yeah.
Plus, I've got to tell you, from a social point of view, cheerleaders and song leaders are almost always buddies because you're together all that time.
Mm-hmm.
And let me just say, I didn't want for any female dates.
I see. So you mean, so they got you dates? They
Yes.
introduced you?
Yeah, they
checked-
help introduce you or set you up even in some cases.
All right. So, all right, so then you graduated from there, and I suspect you had a good grade point average then?
Mm-hmm.
And then where did you go?
UCLA,
Okay, and you spent how many years at UCLA?
just 2.
Okay, so what did you major in?
Political science.
Why did you do that?
Because I thought I was going to go on to be a lawyer, and that was a good pre-law major.
Yeah, are you sorry that did not happen?
Not really. I have friends, including Dennis, who were attorneys and Michael, who I don't really envy their lifestyle or what they had to work. Their lifestyle was fine. Their careers were, I'm sure, successful.
Were you in a fraternity at UCLA?
Yes, Phi Kappa Psi.
And what was your job there?
I was Hellmaster, among other things, which was the person that put the pledges through Hell Week.
Okay, so what was the worst thing you did during your time as Hell Week person?
Oh. Well, we forced the pledges to do manual labor and carry stuff around and clean up after parties and things like that. And in one particular case, Dennis had gotten a semester behind me for some reason. I don't know what happened. I think he was working too many hours or something.
Didn't he hurt his back?
Yes, while he was being a pledge, he was carrying an extra case of beer empties down the back steps and slipped and fell and hurt his back. And I fell implicitly in charge. Here, my best friend is getting hurt during Hell Week.
So, but what
And
was
they had to eat vile stuff and carry around a dead sardine and
what was the worst thing though?
paddling them, I guess, with these huge wooden paddles
Oh,
sometimes raised blisters on there, but
God.
it was